All right, last section here. We're on number 9. So we're going to talk about 2 more disorders, body dysmorphic disorder and eating disorders. And I have grouped them together because they both sort of relate to an underlying desire to change your physical appearance or to meet an internalized kind of standard. Not always the case, but we're going to talk about them in the same group. So body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD for short, is an unrealistic perception of your physical flaws. So this might lead to things like having numerous cosmetic surgeries because you look in the mirror and you're unpleased with what you see, so you decide to get repeated surgeries to try to fix some error that you think exists. It leads to things like excessive bodybuilding, so convincing yourself or perceiving yourself as having lower muscle mass than you would like, and so building up your body, grooming, so things like makeup, hair, things like that to try to uh, fix flaws physically that you think exist. And I'm saying this because they are unrealistic perceptions. They are things that if someone else were to look at these individuals, um, they wouldn't see the same kind of errors that a person with body dysmorphic disorder would see. It often leads to things like checking mirrors constantly or avoiding mirrors altogether. So this is something that I want to link back. Other instructors in Psych 1100 link body dysmorphic disorder with OCD instead. And the reason they do that is because it's often characterized by these obsessions with your physical appearance and compulsions, things like checking mirrors a lot or getting a lot of surgeries to try to fix those flaws. So if thinking about body dysmorphic disorder as an OCD, as a form of OCD is helpful to you, that also works. But notice that these types of behaviors need to be very time-consuming, very costly, and cause a lot of interference in a person's life to classify as a disorder. Okay, so here are some examples of this. The first is Michael Jackson. So a famous musical performer is a pretty famous example of this. So he started out with darker skin tones and ended up having a skin condition called vitiligo, which causes kind of lightening and splotchiness on your skin. And so he continued to kind of lighten his skin some more to even out the tones, and progressed into different surgeries to modify his face. So you can see now when he passed away in 2009, this is what his appearance looked like. So he constantly underwent numerous surgeries to try to modify his appearance in ways because he perceived him to be to have flaws in ways that he didn't like. This is also true very commonly in women who want to make themselves look more like models or Barbies in this case. So this is a woman, this is her initial appearance, and has since undergone numerous surgeries to modify her face and her body in order to look more like the proportions of a Barbie doll. And then lastly, this is a case who of a man who started off and wanted to make himself appear more like Ken doll instead. So he altered his appearance, I believe, using 72 different cosmetic surgeries to kind of perfect his appearance and ultimately get to a state that he was more satisfied with. Reportedly spent more than 650 grand to try to get this Ken doll appearance. This can kind of intertwine with feelings of not being in the right body as well. So this individual has since transitioned to being female, so kind of perfecting her appearance to be more Barbie-like instead. So this is their old self, what they used to look like, but kind of just showing that they're unsatisfied with their appearance and continuing to modify it through surgery. I really like this meme. So just because you don't look like somebody who you think is attractive doesn't mean you aren't attractive. Flowers are pretty, but so are Christmas lights, and they look nothing alike. And like, yeah, I needed that too. Like that's a heartwarming way of um, trying to conceptualize this. But again, someone with body dysmorphic disorder someone with body dysmorphic disorder would have trouble acknowledging themselves as attractive. They only fixate on their flaws. So that's body dysmorphic disorder. Let's move on to eating disorders. So eating disorders are typically eating abnormally small or large amounts of food. And the first one we're going to talk about is anorexia nervosa, which is sometimes it's just called anorexia, but it's kind of this loss of appetite by definition. It's the maintenance of an unusually low, typically unhealthy body weight, and it's an intense fear of putting on weight. So this is someone who would look in the mirror and never be satisfied with their weight, always kind of seeing themselves as larger than they realistically are, and being committed to reducing the weight that they have. This often leads to interruption of menstrual cycles for women. So it causes some body changes, and additionally some cardiovascular or gastrointestinal problems, because we are healthiest when we carry around some weight, when our body is able to use, burn off fat and use resources to keep our body going. So depriving it of that causes some interruption. So the second eating disorder we're going to talk about is bulimia nervosa, or commonly just bulimia. So this is characterized by cycles between binging and purging. So binging is eating large amounts of food in one sitting, but then subsequently purging that food through vomiting or laxatives so that your body does not put on that weight. So it's also an eating disorder that kind of relies on wanting to reduce the weight that you have. It often leads to feelings of depression, disgust, being out of control. You're kind of doing this over and over, purging, and it doesn't feel great, but it's something that you feel like you've got to do. So lastly, there's also binge eating disorder. So in contrast to depriving yourself of food or trying to lose weight, binge eating disorder involves binging food without the purging component. So similar to bulimia, but not purging the food that you just ate. So it's not the same thing as being obese, although obesity might occur, but it's feeling that you're just out of control with your eating. So whether that's to cope with a different underlying condition or what, but it often leads to putting on some weight instead of taking off weight. So 3 different types of common disorders. We're going to look now at a celebrity example here again. So this is Demi Lovato, and she's going to share about her struggle with bulimia.